Great. Good morning, everyone. Just want to confirm that you guys can see my screen.
We can, thank you.
Great. I will get started here then. Hi, I'm Blessing Abraham, founder and CEO of Cambio. Cambio is a platform that helps consumers rebuild and repair their finances. So I started Cambio because in 2014, I started another company called Savvy Intel. And to keep the business afloat, I made a very logical decision. I cashed out my 401k, I overdrew on my checking account, and I ran my credit cards to the limit. And it's really, really crazy to say it out loud right now, but ultimately I fell behind and ended up going into collections. So I went from being a prime borrower to being a subprime borrower in less than 6 months. Now, in 2016, our business started to turn around. We started getting cash flow. I started paying down my debt. And in 2017, we were actually acquired by one of the largest insurance companies in the credit union space called Cambio Mutual Group. But it still took me 4 long years to actually rebuild my finances, build up my credit score again. And this cost me thousands, all because credit scores are a lagging indicator of recovery. So unfortunately for most Americans, it takes them 7 long years to actually recover when they've had an item actually go into collections, and they don't walk the same journey that I've walked. And there are over 100 million Americans today who have an account in collections or have a credit score below 650. And the sad reality is these consumers spend about $2,400 a year extra on fees for banking services and loans. And the reality is this too, is we've made getting credit so much easier. So for example, you don't have enough cash right now for the new pair of shoes, buy now, pay later, right? But for consumers who get caught in the cycle of adding on debt and going into collections, it's a 7-year journey and they don't have a tool to actually help them rebuild. And that's where Cambio comes into play. We help these consumers rebuild the right way. We provide consumers with the 3 tools needed to rebuild. First, stabilize their spending. Second, clean up their credit and collections. Third, build credit to show payment history. This helps these consumers cut down on their rebuilding time, saves consumers thousands, and ultimately helps consumers build assets. So how do we go about doing this? We go ahead and, sorry, I got click happy there. We go ahead and help consumers. We help consumers by enabling them to actually join Cambio by either connecting their existing account or actually getting their own Cambio debit card. And then we focus in on what's important by giving them tasks to stabilize their spending. So we actually reward members for doing positive behaviors that helps them build habits and actually build up confidence. Next, we go ahead and focus on cleaning up their credit. So we actually give them a plan and a strategy to deal with accounts and collections. And we have an algorithm that helps them prioritize which debt to pay back based on the likelihood that a collector will actually agree on terms. Finally, we focus in on providing them a pathway to show recent payment history by providing them a loan that gets reported to the credit bureaus and also builds up their savings accounts. So we make money as members actually rebuild. Members can try the app for free by connecting their existing bank account, connecting existing bills so they can stay on track, and also receive free credit reports. Members wanting more can subscribe to a preferred service like bill pay assistance, which ensures that they don't actually miss a payment on a utility or cell phone bill. These services keep members engaged and results in us generating $120 per month or per member annually. Members who get to the point of rebuilding, so when we start to identify that they're actually at a point of rebuilding, we provide them opportunities to refinance existing loans with responsible banks and credit unions, helping them keep more of their money and helping build assets. Today, we've been able to acquire members through Google and Facebook ads and have kept CAC at $12. Since launching publicly in June of this year, we've added 2,800 new members. What's been exciting for us is in November, we're actually expecting to add an additional 1,500 new members just this month alone, and while keeping our CAC at $6. So we've actually reduced our spending on CAC. So we've cut it in half without adding an extra penny in general in regards to marketing in general. Over the next 12 months, we're going to grow our membership base to 50,000 total members. The other exciting part is our conversion from free to paying users. We've seen conversion grow from 25% to 33% in October, and November's staying at 33%. So even if we held steady at this 18% conversion rate that we've had overall, every member would pay back their CAC and cost of goods sold within the first 5 months. At the end of November, 5 months since launching publicly, we will start generating monthly recurring revenue of over $10,000. The marketplace to help these consumers is littered with one-off solutions, making rebuilding difficult. So existing players in the credit repair space cost consumers between $150 to $300 a month for their services. And while there's been new neobanks that have popped up to go ahead and help consumers gain access to banking services, many of these services are actually very much geared towards folks with thin credit files, not for folks looking to actually go ahead and rebuild their finances. So we combine these services to provide members one place to actually go ahead and rebuild. Our founding team has experience in these hardships, unfortunately. All of us have had parents, significant others, or in my case, have dealt with items in collections, so we know the struggle. This team has been the ones to go ahead and build out the prototype, MVP, and actually the first version of our app. And as you've heard from my story, I've had a successful exit of Savvy Intel, a SaaS-based data and analytics solution for banks in less than 3 years, and have over 15 years of retail banking experience. We're seeking a $1.5 million round that will enable us to get to 50,000 members in the next 12 months. We'll do this by building out a banking channel partnership for new acquisitions and also launching a referral program. To drive revenue, we're building out with the lending network so we can actually give members an opportunity to refinance loans, and also introducing a loan consolidation offering as a way to help consumers negotiate with collectors. So if you're looking to be a part of a community that's helping bring normalcy back to consumers and helping traditional lenders actually partner with these individual consumers, come partner with us and come join our community in general. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. That was good. I like it. I mean, it's a good pitch. This is tough because there's so much activity in this space, and so from a business model standpoint, obviously you guys have a good idea, a good business. Probably the implementation is great. This to me is a sales and marketing challenge almost exclusively because there's just a ton of options out there for customers, and so as an investor, the first thing I would say is I'm shocked that you can get to a $6 CAC for a consumer conversion. That's absolutely unheard of, especially in the financial services space where customer acquisition is pretty expensive because switching costs are very high. Now, in this case, there's nothing really to switch because you're adding a service, but nonetheless, that's an insanely, kind of low number. So I would want to dive a little bit deeper on that to understand, kind of that, because if you can really get that kind of leverage, then the million or $1.5 million that you're raising then has, I would think, the potential to add way more in terms of capital efficiency on the investment side than would be typical. So that's kind of interesting. The other thing was you kind of slid in there, kind of the banking, the card kind of thing. That's a whole different business when you get into issuing cards to people and managing that. So I'm curious, just as a question, where that fits in versus, the education, the kind of planning, the management of the individual's credit score, and then their access to, capital through loans going forward. It wasn't clear to me exactly where you're headed, or so I'd love a little bit more there.
Yeah, so the debit card offering that we started off with was actually version 1 of our product. So we have a bank of record that helps us issue a debit card. What we ultimately figured out was this, right? So folks were coming to us saying, hey, I love we call it the routines program, so the habit building program, the ability to go ahead and manage your debt, and then what we're offering from a lending perspective. They wanted all that. What they didn't want to do was switch their entire banking life over to Cambio for the sake of switching over. So they loved all the back end pieces. So we made a pivot to go ahead and say, hey, you know what? You can go ahead and connect to your existing account. We're slowly transitioning away from debit card users in general. So our first set of users are doing it. We're getting away from that just because it doesn't make sense. It's not what the consumers are actually doing.
That makes more sense to me. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I actually like this space a lot. I have several questions, but I'll start with the basics. We talked about the credit bureaus because they're generating the score, and I think we've all done those credit simulations, what to do where, when, and I found that they're typically pretty wrong. As you help people rebuild and tweak, how are you kind of figuring out the secret sauce of these algorithms in order to actually have tangible rebuilt credit at the end?
Yeah, so I 100% agree that it's usually wrong, those simulators, because they're like, hey, just go open up another secured credit card, right? And your credit score will go up by 20 points, which is not the case. So the demographic, again, just that we're dealing with is folks have items in collections. When they say they have 2 items, they probably have 4 items in collections, right? So that's why we really specifically go after folks that are have those items in collections, and we come up with a strategy in general that says, okay, the likelihood that this collection agency is to negotiate or settle this debt with you is XYZ. So this is the offer that you should actually go to them with, because once you settle that amount, your credit score actually starts to rebound versus opening up another secured credit card. It doesn't help this consumer base out. So we actually don't use the simulators at all in general. What we focus our attention on is to say, hey, number one, we need to go ahead and find ways for you to start getting $20, $30 back a month so that we can settle these items in collections. Once you do settle those items in collections, what we focus in on are those credit builder loans that help build up savings for you so that you can start to show a recent payment history. And then ultimately, like I said, our goal is how do you go ahead and build assets for people is if we're dealing with folks that are coming to us with 20% auto loans with their interest rates that they're paying for a $20,000 loan for the next 5 years, right? So we're saying, hey, we can go ahead and build a network of banks and credit unions that are willing to refi to these consumer bases and potentially save them hundreds of dollars and put them back in their pocket, if that makes sense.
Okay, and then the other question is about, I'm curious about your default rate, since we know that these folks still have some thinner margins. If you're going to be extending credit, one, what do you use as an indicator if it's not going to be credit score and you already kind of know where they are? Two is, what's your default rate as it relates to those loans that you're making within your network? Or have you made any loans if you have?
Yeah, so we've only been betaing the credit builder program today. One of the nice things is it's a low risk, high win for both parties involved. So because it is a secured, basically savings account, you're not necessarily going out and paying against the installment loan. We're able to report back to the credit bureaus if for whatever reason you have to you can't fulfill the loan itself. There isn't collateral that we put up or there isn't money that we forwarded you to begin with. So we're able to really manage out our risk in general. Within the beta right now, default has been 5%. So we're feeling pretty good about where that's headed. The real truth will come into play once we extend out that lending network of bringing in auto loans, right? One of the reasons why we're pushing more on the auto loan side of issuing loans is, number one, it's collateralized. Number two is, when we've looked at folks' credit reports, where they're missing payments or they're defaulting is on unsecured and personal loans. What they're not missing payments on is their auto loans, or they're 30 days behind and they get caught up.
I would think that if you're talking about secured loans, that you guys are primed for like a DeFi application where you can collateralize with like a stable coin or something so that the loan is never even reported to credit bureaus and it's not affecting their score. Unless, I guess, maybe you want the loan and want the repayment because that's how they drive the score up. But it feels like there's some DeFi in the back here that would make sense somehow.
It does, and that's something that we're looking at, but we certainly do want to report these back to the credit bureaus, though, so that we can start to show, again, that growth.
Yeah, you want to see the improvement, I get it.
Well, my vote is no credit scores at all.
Yeah, get rid of them.
I think it's you call it a lagging indicator. I think it's a terrible indicator. So I like where you're going. I would, encourage pushing the envelope even more because everybody knows it's a bad proxy for everything. It's not real time, but definitely there's a lot of room for improvement. So trying to tweak a bad system is not my favorite thing.
Yeah. One other quick question. Some of the companies like Trim and the others are actually intervening on the settlement. Are you guys intervening or just making the recommendation?
Right now,
the customer do manage it themselves.
Yeah, right now we're just giving recommendations. We're going to intervene moving forward with that loan consolidation side.
Yeah, that's a people problem because obviously it doesn't scale as well. But I do find those services that do intervene on the customer's behalf tend to get really good results. So I'm glad to hear. I would put that in the pitch that you're headed in that direction because they get appreciably better results than the people having to kind of negotiate themselves. Because you have professional negotiators that are used to dealing with these firms, and that is a really big value add. So I would love to see that in the pitch.
Yep. Yeah. Homework versus actually doing it for them, better results.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thanks to all of the presentations.